Hey guys, Jeff and welcome to today's video. So today, as promised, we're going to be doing the recap of my 2019 season with my Rad Rover from Rad Power Bike. It's a video I promised you guys a couple of weeks ago, and right off the bat, the bike is disassembled right now. There's a reason for that, but don't worry, it's nothing negative. I'm not going to be trashing anything. There's no drama in this video. There's no big reveal at the end. It's just going to be me stating facts and talking about my experience with the bike over the summer. And with that said, the first question I get a lot, and I think that's going to explain why I'm storing the bike for the winter, is a lot of people ask me why I'm not riding the bike in the winter. And the truth of the matter is, in cities like Montreal, Vancouver, places like that, where the winter is a lot softer, I know people from there will argue that their winter is really tough, but it really isn't. In places like that, I could see myself riding this bike year-round, but really in Rimouski, where I live, the winter is really brutal. Oftentimes, when winter comes, at the heart of winter, there's like 8, 9, 10 feet of snow in my yard here. I really wouldn't have any place to store the bike over the winter, and the bike tracks aren't really plowed, so I couldn't go through there. I'd have to go through traffic in the winter. It's really not good, so I decided that I wouldn't be riding the bike in the winter. Plus, I'm not 100% confident that the electronics are protected in a way that they could weather the elements all that well, and I'd be worried that over time, if I were to ride it in the salt and in the sludge and all the snow and all that gunk, that the bike would deteriorate at a faster rate than it already does. So not to say that it deteriorates rapidly, but I mean, wear and tear is something natural that occurs on bikes, and right now there's a lot of wear and tear on my bike. Obviously, it's done 1,500 kilometers, and it's had a few issues that we're going to talk about in this video. But yeah, I'm not confident that the bike would really weather the elements all that well, and so for that reason, I've decided I'm not going to ride it in the winter. Plus, I couldn't really use it to get to work because the road I take to get to work in the summer is not plowed in the winter, so I couldn't go through there. I'd have to go through the main boulevard, and that has very high speed limits, no real place for bikes to go, so it'd be fairly dangerous, and I don't want to risk my life by going to work in the winter on the bike, so I'm not going to do it. So that's the first question answered. I'm not going to ride it in the winter, and that's why. So I've decided to store the bike here in my shed for the winter. Now, the reason why I've decided to end my season today is because in the past couple of days, I've actually had a lot of problems with flat tires. So I know I said in my reviews that a lot of people had problems with flat tires. The truth is, for over 1,500 kilometers, I have absolutely had no problem with flat tires. I actually had the stock tire in the rear changed after 1,200 kilometers, I would say. I had to change that tire because it was getting completely bald. So I had that changed to a V tire Hillbilly. Then I did another 300 kilometers with that tire and everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, I had 2 flats in the same day. So I decided that that was it. I didn't want to put any more money into fixing those flats. So the reason why the bike is all taken apart is because essentially my second flat this morning, I was in a place where I really couldn't get the bike towed anywhere. I was on the side of the road, so I took the bike apart and I called a friend. He came with my car. We put the bike in the car and that was that. So I brought it back here. I decided that that was that for this year. Yeah, other than that, I haven't really had that many mishaps with the bike. The electronics always work perfectly. I've had these one little issue with the bike. Give me this error 30 code, which is fairly common for Rad Power bikes. All that is in the front here, there's this connection that goes bad. So you just have to retighten that and then the problem goes away. So I've had that. So electronics wise, I didn't really have any problems. Mechanically, I had these flat tires obviously at the end of the season, which sort of ruined the end of my season. But other than that, no real mechanical issues on the tire side. One issue I did have, and that I didn't talk about in any video yet, and I guess I'll bring it up now, is the freewheel. So the gears basically, over the course of the summer, I bent the first gear, the crawler gear, on my first freewheel. And Rad Power Bikes didn't honor it on their warranty, which I was pretty disappointed about because in my opinion, that was really a fault on the bike's part. I had a little to do with it. I rode it in a way that was inappropriate once it had started bending, which caused it to bend even further. I think there was a weakness in that. They didn't really recognize that there was an issue and I had to replace it out of pocket, which isn't a big deal, right? It's like $50 some, and my mechanic had that replaced for like 12 bucks. So it really wasn't a big deal, but I thought on Rad Power Bike's part, it was a bit disappointing that they weren't showing more, I'd say, goodwill towards a first claim. So I would understand if I was always claiming problems with a bike that they would get sick of me and they would want to not cover anything on a warranty on the good faith. But for a first claim, if it was my company, I would have passed it on the warranty. But anyway, that's the way they handle business. Other than that, no real issues. As I talked about in the hydraulics brake video, I've replaced those because the mechanical brakes on the bike, I think, were really inadequate for the size of the bike and the weight that I'm at. Some people have reported that they really didn't have any problems with the mechanical brakes that came with the bike. I really don't know what to say. I assume that it's a bit like everything where not all individual components are of the same quality, so it may be varying from month to month or something like that. So mine were really bad. They were very loud. They didn't break at all, and I had them replaced with these Chinese hydraulic brakes, which work a lot better. They're not the best in the business, obviously, but they do the work well enough, so I'm really happy about those. And the thing I noticed most about them were the mechanical brakes. After one good braking, one good pull, they would be completely shot. They would overheat. These actually work even better as they heat up, so when you pick them up in the morning, they don't brake quite as well. You give them a couple stops, and then they start to build up a bit of heat, and then they work really, really well, and they keep on working well for the rest of my 20 or 30 kilometer travel that I'm going to be doing. Whereas the mechanical brakes were kind of the opposite. They would work very well on the first try, and then they would completely stop working as soon as they built up a bit of heat. That's one of the big differences, and obviously the major difference I noticed was in the noise. The hydraulic brakes are much, much quieter. They barely ever squeak, and when they do, it's very faint, so I'm really happy about those. I would definitely recommend anyone who has a bike like this to make that upgrade. It's definitely worth the 40 bucks. So that's about it for the bike. Now the final question that a lot of people had for me pertains to this, my fat gut. Obviously, when I started out with the bike, I didn't really have many objectives. After a couple weeks, I had set an objective for myself. I wanted to lose like 20 pounds and ride about 1,000 kilometers over the course of the summer. And then I quickly lost like 20 pounds. So ultimately, I can give you the spoiler right now. I lost 35 pounds over the summer. So I'm 315 now. I used to be 350 back in May. So that's a good 35 pounds lost. And so I'm really happy about that. I don't know exactly how I'm going to keep up with that weight loss with the winter coming and exercise being a lot harder to come by. But anyway, I've lost 35 pounds. I also had a lot of problem with circulation. My heart wasn't working all that well. Now I can see my ankles again, which is really, really great. So I'm super happy about that as well. I ended up riding 1,500 kilometers on the bike. So yeah, I mean, I'm just so happy about it. It's really, really nice that it's working this great. And that's about the recap for me. So if you have other questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Unfortunately, there really won't be much more content after this video until next year. Early next year, I'm going to be ordering some parts. So I got a couple things I want to do to the bike. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you in this video because I don't want to spoil the fun. But yeah, there are going to be some upgrades coming early next year. So I would expect that by like March, April, I'm going to start shooting some videos showing the upgrades. We're going to be talking about that. So until then, guys, that will be it for me on the bike front. All the videos for this year on the Rad Rover and with this. So I'll see you next year. For those of you that only follow my bike videos, and for those of you that follow my music and follow all of my other videos, I will catch you in the next one. Peace, guys.